Good morning, everybody. Are you ready to faith the day and faith the weekend with Psalm chapter 53? Psalm chapter 53, really just two verses, really almost just sentences that I want to hone in on here in Psalm 53. It just begins, it says that the fool has said in his heart that there is no God. He's just saying that, it's so obvious in life that there is an intelligent being who is greater than us, who is bigger than us, who is more powerful and more capable than us, that it's foolish to say that no creator, no God exists. In Romans chapter 1, starting in verse 18, Paul just sort of walks through and he says, look, you can just look at creation and know that there's a God. And I mean, with all the knowledge that we have scientifically about creation now, it is just completely obvious that there's a God. I mean, if the rotation of the earth was any slower, we'd all burn up. If it was any faster, we would freeze to death. If the orbit of the earth around the sun, if it was any closer to the sun, we'd burn up. If it got away any farther, we would all freeze to death. It's at just the right speed for just the right amount of sunlight with the rotation and the right amount of darkness and for the right amount in the seasons. I mean, everything is just perfect. Everything works together perfectly. The moon is in the right spot. If the moon was closer to the earth, the shoreline of the Atlantic Ocean would be the Rocky Mountains. I mean, everything just works so intricately and perfectly together in order to sustain life here that it is just obvious that there is a creator, an intelligent being created that. I'm sitting here staring into this phone right now, and look, I've never seen anybody make a phone. I've never known anybody who made a phone, but it is completely obvious to me that this phone was created intentionally by someone who's very intelligent, that when you push this button, this happens. When you push this button, this happens. Never in my wildest dreams would I have ever considered that a million years ago or more, a bunch of electronic parts were dumped into a box, and over millions of years that suddenly they would put themselves together and become this phone. It has never crossed my mind that somewhere there was an electrical factory with electrical parts, and there was a great explosion, and when the dust cleared, this phone sat there. That would be absolutely ridiculous. It would be a fool to think that someone didn't intelligently design and create this phone. And so that's why he says the fool has said in his heart that there is no God. In verse 2, he says that God looks down from heaven upon the children of men to see if there are any who understand, who seek God. If there are any who seek God. You see, what God wants from you above all else is to have a relationship with you. And more than anything else, he just wants you to seek him, and you will find him. In Acts chapter 17, Paul was in the city of Athens, very multicultural, multi-religious, and they had little altars to all the gods that they ever knew of. And then there was this one altar that Paul saw, and the inscription on it said, "To the unknown God." And what it was they just wanted to make sure they didn't miss one, right? So they built this altar to this unknown God. In case they accidentally missed a God, they wanted to make sure they had him right. And Paul says, I'm going to tell you who this God is. He said, he is the God, and this is in Acts 17, probably starts around verse 21, 22, somewhere in there. He says, this God has created everything, and he has created every man. He has created every human from one blood, meaning that ultimately all men are the same and they're equal. And it says that he determined the time period that they would live in and the place that they would live in. And he did it so that men would seek him. God intentionally placed you in this time period and in this place because he wants you to seek him. And this is the environment in which you are more apt to seek him than any other. He just wants you to seek him. He says, and grope for him, to really search for him, to look for him, like you're walking around in the dark. And that's the way a lot of us feel. And it says, though he is not far from each one of us. You see, God is near and God is close and God desires a relationship with you. And God has placed you in this position so that you would seek him and seek to have a relationship with him and seek to know him. And he's right there and you can do it. Now get out there with Psalm 53 and faith today. God bless you. Bye.